This. Okay, no, it's recording. Okay.
You good? Ooh. I think Max is about ready. Am I getting a thumbs up? Yep. What about the elbows up?
No elbows up, please.
No elbows up?
No elbows up. That's for whatever.
Are we streaming now?
Yep, it is streaming.
Oh, wow. This thing's live. All right, hello, everybody. I can see a lot of excellent faces here tonight. We'll get your attention. Mark, be good. We can hear you over there. Hi. Okay, let's get started off properly with the land acknowledgement. I am standing on the ceded land that was ceded by Treaty 6 in 1879, and then passed to Alberta in 1930, and now I'm in the town or city of Leduc, in the province of Alberta, and one day soon, the nation of Alberta. Yeah. That's a land acknowledgement you can get behind, huh? A little bit of things to let you know. There's only 2 washrooms, male and female, so if that doesn't work for you, I apologize. My name is Jason Lavigne. I'm the host of the Lavigne Show and the host of these tours, and I'm the father of 2, the husband of 1. We'll keep it that way. And I've been traveling all over Alberta having conversations with people. I'm not here to preach to you, and neither are our speakers. We're here to provide you information. And we have a good chunk of what's going on tonight is going to be a Q&A. So take out your notepads and get ready. And believe me, there's no question we haven't heard yet. So be very prepared to go ahead and give them to us. Who's here is for the first time at a political event of any kind? Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Because this is a very uncertain time, and what we're talking about here is a very big subject, and a lot of people are scared. They're uncertain of what's going to happen, exactly how it will roll out. But I can tell you, for the history of this earth, this event has happened many times. Several countries have declared independence, become independent, voted their way into it. So this is not a new thing, but in the modern time, it's kind of different. There's no muskets, there's no firearms, there's ballots and petitions. No Dominion voting machines, thank goodness. Well, we'll get to that one maybe a little bit later. But if you have some uncertainty and you're worried, then you're in the right spot. How many people here are canvassers or signed up to be a canvasser? Please stand up. Holy smokes. Yeah, please stand up. For the online audience, that's about 30%, 25-30% of this audience. All of you, thank you so much. Oh, I see our Sean Hartman picture in the back there. Everybody say thank you to Kevin. He goes around to events reminding us about Sean Hartman. Kevin, nice to see you, brother. So we have a whole bunch of canvassers here. We have a bunch of people here for the first time. Now, how many people are on the fence, not sure what they want to do right now? Don't worry, we're not going to take pictures of you or anything. I just want an idea of how many in this crowd is looking for information. You too, very, very thankful that you're here. This is a tough decision. There's a lot of information out there. You don't know what to trust, what to believe. And I'm here to help you do our best. We're not going to yell at you. You won't find that here. We're not going to victimize or demonize you. We may laugh, but in a nice little way. So thank you very much for being here. Everybody's looking for some answers. Now, anybody here know who Kathy Flett is? Have you heard her speak before? I got you beat 4 times this week already. This will be number 5. She's a fantastic speaker from east of Edmonton. She's been doing a lot of this for a while now, going around Alberta having conversations, specifically trying to talk to women because women are very uncertain about this and they want to be very cautious and understand. Us men, we can kind of get ourselves in trouble, right? We'll jump off that cliff, no problem. But the conversation with women is very important because, quite frankly, they're going to be the deciders of this referendum if we get to that stage. Poppycocks. Nonsense. These are some of the favorite words of our other guest speaker, Dr. Roger Hodkinson. Anybody know who he is? On your chairs, you'll find this little white piece of paper. because Doctor has sacrificed a lot to go ahead and tell the truth. They couldn't make him take a knee. They couldn't make him stop talking. He had the option, but he said, poppycocks, nonsense. I'm going to keep talking. And it cost him dearly. And where's his beautiful wife? Nicole's here somewhere too. Hi. She is the sweetness behind this man, keeps his hair nice and spiky, and tries to keep his mouth filtered. He certainly has a good mouth on him. The first evening we had 5 swears, and then last night we had none. So, Nicole, we're doing a good job. But these white pieces of paper here is how you can go home and support him if you feel called to, because he has sacrificed a lot and is working really hard to continue to keep his house and make sure that he can continue to do this kind of thing, come out and speak. So if you can take those home and give it some thought, and if you can, that's just a give, send, go. So let's go ahead and get this show on the road. It's getting warm in here, huh? Getting a little bit? I'm getting warm. You should try it up here. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring Kathy on, who's going to have a conversation. And what you want to take away from this is the little nuggets of information that you can use when you're talking to your loved ones, co-workers, neighbors, people that are on the fence or very opposed to this, because information is key here. So I hope you enjoy what she has to say. And thank you very much, Kathy, for being here.
Good. Max is testing me because I like to walk around when I talk. Apparently I don't get to do that today. Thank you. Really? We're already the food inflation capital of the G7, and now we are the microphone inflation capital of the G7. Awesome. We have been having so much fun over this last week touring Northern Alberta. That's where I hail from. So when Jason called and said, hey, I've got this idea, do you want to come with me? There was only one answer to that question, because for me, that's going home. I'm a Northern Alberta girl by trade. Alberta's all I know. It's everything that I love. It's where I was born. And I tried to leave once, and the Lord said, nope, you're staying, and this is why. We've got things to do here. While we have been traveling around, we've been meeting the most coolest people, and tonight is no exception. And something that has been a theme in all of these conversations is that we don't know our history. A lot of people are wondering, what is wrong with you over there? Why do you want to leave this beautiful dominion of Canada? And what's even more fascinating, when I got home and caught up with my husband this week, I didn't get to see him until today because we got in so late last night. He got a phone call from his dad, who is a snowbird down in Florida, and he said the Canadians down there won't talk about it, but the Americans are beyond intrigued as to what exactly is going on north of the border. And they don't get it. They say, like, why? You people are so nice up there. I'm like, well, because not everybody's nice to us. And we don't always know our history. So my hope tonight is to share our history as a province, some of it, our government structure, how that came about, so that when the questions come up, and they will, as we continue through this petition, then as we get on to the referendum, you're going to have some answers to give your friends, your family, your colleagues, whoever wants to know why. Because sometimes we know why. You inherently know that there's something's wrong, we got to leave, but we don't always know how to articulate it. And what I didn't know, so I presumed nobody else maybe knew, is that our problems actually predate us even becoming a province. They go way back. When the Dominion of Canada was created in 1867, life then bears very little resemblance to what it does now. Planes, trains, and automobiles have long since replaced the horse and buggy. Once a necessity for life, oil lamps and wood stoves are now used for decoration. Email and instant messaging have largely displaced Canada Post, though for some reason we're supposed to still pay for it. And within this Dominion is our province of Alberta, our home, that we built with grit and resolve and a level of tenacity you will not find anywhere else. And we should be proud that many of our accomplishments have largely fueled the advancements I just described. literally. Since becoming a province in 1905, generations of Albertans have felt very honored to be Canadian. They fly the flag, they cheer on our Olympic teams, and they go out of their way to buy made-in-Canada products in Costco. But they try. What a remnant of Albertans has known for decades, and now hundreds of thousands more are finding out, is Canada was built on false honor. And what do I mean by that? Well, the definition of false honor is giving respect or admiration where it's insincere, it's not deserved. And the story of how we became a province is an example. The Westminster system of government is very top-down, and that's what we're under. We're under the Westminster system. It's very top-down, and our elected officials are even introduced as the honorable member from wherever they're from, because it's supposed to be honorable. Well, once elected as an MP or appointed as a senator or elected as an MLA, there's almost a built-in arrogance that comes with that title, and very few are able to escape it. For example, it starts from way back. How many of you know who said this skill testing question? We desire, every patriotic Canadian desires that the great trade of the prairie shall go to enrich our own people in the East, to build up the factories and the workshops of Eastern Canada, and contribute in every way to its prosperity. And these two ladies over here know who I'm talking about. Who was it? The Honorable Sir Clifford Sifton said that in 1904. These are the words that our province came into confederation with. Now, what many don't know, and I didn't either, was Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only two provinces that were colonized. There were no talks. There was nobody at any table. There was no back and forth. There were no negotiations. So when someone says, well, Alberta, this is what you wanted, nope. We didn't have a voice. There wasn't even an election. We were appointed our first premier, who was a Liberal. Since then, the country's evolved a bit. Some of the landmass in some of the other provinces has changed. It's expanded. It's gotten bigger, but not for the better. Not for us, anyways. When we look at how our government structure is designed, today, the federal government is made up of twice as many MPs in the eastern provinces than in the west. Twice as many. Now, we're told that this is representation by population, right? That's what they say. Well, too bad. Suck it up. Have some more babies. Figure it out. But the math ain't mathin'. Who knows what time the federal election was called last spring? 8:06. 8:06 p.m. What time do our polls close? 8 o'clock. Our boxes weren't even open to count one vote. And it had already been decided. If you even voted for the winner, and don't admit to it in this room, but if you did, your vote was not needed to make it happen, so your vote didn't count either. It is not representation by population. And if you want to see a deeper dive on that, go to kathyflett.ca, and there's a video there. There are more than twice as many senators appointed. Great gig if you can get it. You get to keep that job until you're 75 or dead or do something really dumb. That's the truth. And it's appointed. Twice as many senators appointed in the East than in the West. Almost all of them, but a very small handful, are Liberal appointees, Trudeau appointees. Every bill that goes through Parliament has to go through both the MPs that we do vote in, voting on those bills, and then the senators get their turn. If that bill does not get passed by both the MPs and the senators, it fails. So, if the federal Conservatives had won, everybody who thought Pierre Poilievre was going to be the savior of the West, if they had won, knowing that all of those bills have to go through both houses, would it have mattered? No. It would not have mattered. You need to help your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, your family understand this. We do not have a seat at the table. We do not have a voice in Ottawa, no matter what we do or who we vote for, not even with a Conservative government. in power. And what this has meant for us as Albertans is that our true potential has never been reached. We've been held back, and we continue to be on purpose. There's other things going on in this country that we need to consider when we're talking about this. Watch the headlines and see what kind of country you live in. Did you know human trafficking in Ontario has increased 700%? Not that it doesn't happen here. 700%. That's staggering. The number of non-Canadians who are now federal inmates continues to rise. These people come into our country, they take advantage of our hospitality and our generosity, and then they do something so egregious, they land themselves in a federal prison. My question is, why on earth are we still feeding them? Give them a boat and a paddle, a bottle of water, see ya. %17% of Canadians feel safe. I wonder why. Now, this is going to be an interesting question for me to ask, because I ask this all over in the rural, and almost all the hands go up, so I want to see what's going to happen here in a more urban setting. How many of you guys remember leaving your keys in the ignition of your unlocked vehicle outside your unlocked front door in the front yard so you didn't lose the keys and you didn't know where the key to your house was either? Oh, you guys are so good. What if we got back to that? Wouldn't that be awesome? I'm going to tidy this up because we've got some little people in the room. Before handing out sentences, judges are waiting to find out how their ruling might affect the immigration status of those who hurt our children. Fill in the blanks. That's not a one-off. It's happening with alarming frequency. But not to be outdone, the Supreme Court ruled to remove minimum sentences for those caught with material that shows our little ones being hurt. This country can't even protect our babies. And we're called traitors for not wanting to be a part of it anymore. Did you also know the Liberals spent hundreds of billions of dollars on programs that didn't work, projects that never transpired? I'd like to know where that money went. It went somewhere, and it's our money. So where did it go? We'll take on the debt so you don't have to. Remember that? Well, now our national debt is so high that just to pay the interest on the debt costs taxpayers more money than healthcare all across the country. All the waiting lines that we have, the people that are dying in the hallways in our hospitals, so that we can pay for a debt that we did not vote for and we can't vote out. Keep that in mind. So do we have an affordability crisis? We're constantly told, oh, make things affordable. Really? Is it an affordability crisis or is it a cost of living crisis? They just announced an increase in the GST to help you pay for your groceries. That's a cost of living crisis. That is not an affordable living crisis that the federal government created for us by inflating our dollar to such a degree and getting into so many tariff wars with other countries that there's a lot of hidden tax in your food that they don't want you to know about. But Carney did warn sacrifices were going to have to be made. Remember? Speaking of money, equalization formula. I didn't even know this was a thing until 7 years ago. I nearly have needed therapy ever since. We'll be in a deficit, yet still pay. In a deficit, but we will still pay. Because Harper ensured that it includes 50% of our resource revenues, while Quebec's are excluded. They can post a surplus and still get, and do get, those equalization payments. Also, do you remember when in Eastern Canada said no to Energy East? Alberta, dirty, filthy oil, socially unacceptable, keep it in the ground, we don't want it. Remember that? Do you know where they buy their oil and gas from? That's Team Canada. But we're the traitors. Does that even make sense? Between '07 and 2022, Albertans contributed almost $245 billion with a B dollars to more to Confederation than we received back. So to break that down, that works out to about $4,000 to $5,000 per person, not taxpayer, per person per year. Family of four, what could you do with $20,000 extra dollars this year? Probably quite a bit. Buy groceries. Right? There's nothing honorable about this system of government that we're in. We're supposed to be Team Canada, yet whenever Albertans try to communicate our grievances in hopes of trying to find a remedy, we're told to sit down. Mind your place. We've had the strongest premier we've ever had. In fact, I would even suggest she's stronger than Ralph Klein ever was. And they're telling her to sit down too. And all she's doing is standing up for us. So may I remind you of the intentions that this province was brought into Confederation on. We desire, every patriotic Canadian desires, that the great trade of the prairie shall go to enrich our own people in the East, to build up the factories and workshops in Eastern Canada and contribute in every way to its prosperity. Nothing has changed. Now, complaining is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So what do we do about it? Well, we do what we've always done. We meet the problem head on. And it starts with being honest with ourselves. Is this the type of government structure and system that we really want, that we're under right now? And every day, more and more Albertans are saying no. So how do we fix it? Because we know our votes won't do it. Well, we take the steps necessary to look after ourselves. There's going to be bumps along the way. We know that. But we'll figure it out. We always do. And this is just some of the potential I envision. Come on a journey with me. Because we're no longer under the Canada Health Act as the Republic of Alberta, we can finally have state-of-the-art healthcare with no wait times. Rather than us traveling to other countries to get the care we need because we can't get it here, Alberta could be a healthcare destination. That's what we could do. Pension plans. There's a lot of talk about pension plans right now. By bringing that program in-house, we'll have so much more control over it, over where it's invested and how it's paid out. Not only that, wouldn't it make sense that whatever's left in that is yours goes to your estate when you die instead of into the ether? And why, oh why, are we still taxing our pensioners? Right? We can get that gone. So that once you're a pensioner, no tax, no more, you've paid enough. Unemployment insurance. Let's go back to calling it what it is. You don't need insurance when you have a job. You need it when you don't. Unemployment insurance. How many of you have paid in and never gotten a dime or very little back? Is that not your money? Should it not maybe roll into your pension? We could do that. We can't do that now, but we could do that if we decide that we want to continue having that program available for Albertans in our Republic of Alberta. We could have our own police force. And get this, we could have our own criminal code that kicks people who break our laws out. And crime would reduce dramatically, once because of that, but also homelessness. Because all that money stays here and we're not sending it to other provinces, we will finally have the infrastructure and the things needed to help those who are on the street struggling with addiction and mental health that we can't do right now. We'll be able to help our fellow Albertans the way that they need, finally. The other thing that's going to shrink homelessness is that all those who are there because they were unemployed, we're actually going to have jobs for them because Ottawa is not going to be stifling us. And because we will be in charge of our own immigration. No one comes in until every Albertan who wants a job and needs a job has a job. And that's how it's going to be. Speaking of jobs, rather than being penalized for making more money like you are now, I hope you do see it that way as we creep up to tax time, you could keep your hard-earned money because the numbers are showing once the dust settles, no income tax. No income tax on Alberta residents. Instead, I would suggest that we do have a consumption tax. So if you want to go spend tons of money, you'll have a consumption tax. We still have things to pay for. But you will not be penalized for making more money and doing better by yourself and your family. Tax laws can be greatly simplified. You know, the reason they have all these loopholes is because they make things all difficult. Just simplify it. Simplify it. No more convoluted formulas. And of course, we know capital goes where capital is welcome. And Alberta will be open for business on day one. Our city centers are going to be vibrant again, and our small towns are going to come back to life. No more Ottawa dictating what we can and cannot do. You want to buy an EV? Go for it. Fill your boots. No rebate. You want to buy a diesel? I hope you do, because somebody's going to have to pull that EV when it's minus 40. You want solar? I want you to have solar. Pay for it yourself. No more subsidies. No more subsidies, and no more cartels, otherwise known as supply management, right? Free markets, safe streets, work-life balance, solid future. We could have a robust constitution that ensures small government, and respects and protects our inalienable rights. And the list goes on, and I don't ever see a downside, and I can't find anybody to tell me a downside, but still some struggle. They still struggle with this. So let's take a little trip down memory lane. Who remembers Preston Manning's Reform Party? The West wants in. And then we weren't. Stephen Harper became Prime Minister. The West is in. And then he had to prorogue Parliament 3 times. It didn't work. We tried. We tried the political way. We went the political road. It didn't work because here's the thing. The government system that Canada is run under is not broken. It's working exactly like it's designed. And that doesn't work for us. That does not work for us. The lineups continue to get this petition signed. The complete meltdowns coming from politicians, political pundits, and Canadians living in other provinces is hilarious. I've been called names. I don't know what they mean, and I'm not looking it up. I don't know, and I'm okay with that. Not to mention, they think they can tell us what we can and cannot do. You can't leave. Well, now we're going to have to, just to prove you wrong. Like, you just made up my mind for me right there. This is my favorite. Do you know what you'll be giving up? I made a list. See what you think of it. Here's what we'll be giving up. Probably a partial list. We'll be giving up living under a government that delights in stifling our growth, caused numerous politically induced recessions, landlocked us through policy, regulates everything possible because it's the next best thing to nationalizing it, steals our money through taxation and then launders it to benefit themselves and any of their friends who come to play, believes in open borders just so anyone can walk in and the police will even carry your suitcase for you, unbelievable levels of Chinese interference in our political system and extortion being carried out by Indian gangs here in our borders and in Alberta, by the way, all of which continues to destroy relationships with our largest trading partners, censorship laws, gun buyback program, and a Supreme Court who just ruled that invoking the Emergencies Act was indeed unconstitutional, and the response from Ottawa was, oops. That's what we're leaving. And we're supposed to want to be a part of that. We're accused of not having a culture. Really. We look after one another, and we look after our babies. We are the village raises the child. We make sure everyone is looked after. We value freedom of speech, even if I don't like what you're saying. I want you to be able to say it. We value self-sufficiency. We honor and we protect personal liberty. You name any crisis that this province has ever been under, and it was Albertans that rose to the challenge to help one another out every single time. That's our culture. That's who we are. See, Alberta is everything Canadians think Canada is. But it isn't. We're not the same. I don't even know if we ever were. Furthermore, what Ottawa and much of the rest of Canada doesn't want us to realize is we don't need them, they need us. And that's the truth, which explains the meltdowns across the country over this petition. The simple facts can't be denied. We have everything we need. Yes, oil and gas tend to be the most obvious and at the top, but that's not all we have. We've got farming and agriculture. We are not starving. We got all the food we need. If we want all the fun stuff that comes from warmer climates, we can figure that out. We will be in charge of those trade negotiations. We've got manufacturing. We've got tourism. As it turns out, we've got lithium and who knows what else that we haven't found yet because we haven't been allowed to dig in the dirt and see what else is there. More than that, and most importantly, we have freedom-loving, hard-working men and women who have no problem getting up before the sun, rolling up their sleeves and getting the job done. And we will. We will. And I suggest, and I hope you guys agree, that once we are a republic and we get our new license plates that say Republic of Alberta, we have "Get her done" on the bottom. Your signature on this citizen-led, that's so important. We left the politicians out of this. This is ours. Your signature on this citizen-led petition to hold a referendum on Alberta independence does two things. First, it tells the provincial government we want the opportunity to have our say. That's what it does. That's why this is so, it matters. This matters. We want to have our say. It tells the federal government that for the first time since 1905, we will have our say. That's why the numbers matter. And there's nothing they can do about it. Oh, so-and-so's going to veto it or take you to court. Whatever. Try it. We're out of here. Now, many of us are going to vote yes. Some are still going to vote no. And we're all going to be neighbors, no matter what. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that. We all have a voice. We all have a vote. Finally. And that's what matters. Now, we know Canada's a sinking ship. We don't have to go down with it because I just described to you we've got everything we need. And the cool part is Albertans have always been trailblazers. We always have. We find a way. It's in our bones. It's what built our province. And now we get to blaze a trail of our own. We might even pave the way for other provinces to follow if they want, which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So my fellow Albertans, it's time to shed the false honor we've been subjected to. It's time to command the respect that we deserve. And it's time to reach our full potential by becoming the sovereign Republic of Alberta. Thank you so much.
What'd you think of Kathy? She's certainly a tough act to follow for sure. But we got to take care of our babies. I think that came out loud and clear. Here are some recent headlines for you to kind of ponder as we're making our way to Dr. Roger Hodkinson. CTV News reports, healthcare on the brink. Most Canadians say access has worsened despite raising spending. Also CTV News, Canada's economy is on life support and country is in recession, economics says. You guys ready to stay in that? Let me pose a question to you all that you can take back to your neighbors, loved ones, co-workers. If we were already a sovereign nation and Canada said, hey, let's make a deal, we'd like you to join us. Here are some of the terms, We're going to landlock you under policy. We're going to shut down your energy production. We're going to indoctrinate your children. We're not going to protect your churches. We're going to make your Bible and holy books hate speech. We're going to come after your children and their healthy body parts. We're going to make sure that you're paying taxes, income tax, estate tax, death tax, carbon tax. You're going to have to pay for carbon capture. And you're going to be a have province, and you're going to take care of the have-nots with billions in transfers. Who's signing that? This is what we're talking about. This is a bad deal. Now, let's take a little break. You guys have been sitting for a little while here. I call this the Carney Trump Tango. You ready? Elbows up. Elbows down. Get on one knee. Now start to beg. This is what he's done in about a year to us. With our best neighbor, historically, we've worked together, traded together, protected each other, loved each other. And this is what he's done to us now. Well, somebody I love is Dr. Roger Hodkinson. I look up to this man, even though he's a little bit shorter. On one knee. He has stood strong when many wouldn't. He did what doctors were supposed to do. Yeah. Let's give him a round for that one. And with a little luck, he'll give us a striptease too. Doctor, thank you very much for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Dr. Roger Hodkinson.
There we go. That's great. You can hear me at the back? Unfortunately. Before we go any further, would someone lock the doors, please? Because I don't want anyone to leave. You're a bunch of what I call normies. Pathologically normal people. You should be ashamed of yourselves from using common sense. You've got your head screwed on. Well, I'm back. I'm back on the stump, and it feels good to be talking to normal people who get it. Before I go on, I think it's very important for me to recognize formally, with applause, if you don't mind, the two people that put this on, Paula and Jason. Give them a round of applause. And that doesn't count for my 20 minutes, okay? There's someone else that I want to recognize. She's going to hate this, but I'm going to do it anyway. My wife here, Nicole, who's behind that column trying to hide, she is my rock. She's been with me when the bullets are flying. And I'd like you to give her a round of applause. Now, I'm from Manchester, and we have a reputation that I don't intend to forget. We say what we mean, and we mean exactly what we say. It's sort of a fault, but I'm very proud to carry that with me. Because, just a second, an interlude. I look like a doctor, don't I? Yeah, well, I'm rather ashamed of the label, so this is the striptease that's halfway through the show. I think they throw it away, don't they? There we go. I'll keep the tie on just for continuity. That's the last joke. We're going to get down to it. Because this is bloody serious. That's number one. We're at a moment in history, ladies and gentlemen. We're living through a very important time, and it's a privilege in many respects to be alive and see how it's playing out. There's a train coming down the track, ladies and gentlemen, that's got a label on the front. It's the train to dystopia. It's coming down the track. It started off in Europe, and you've seen what's happened there. This isn't theory. It is going to happen if we don't stop the train. Democratic ideals are in peril internationally. Is that still okay, sound-wise? Democratic ideals are in peril. And there only seems to be one guy doing anything about it, Trump, down in the States. Full disclosure, I'm a Trumper, big time. Is he perfect? No. Is anyone here except me? No, he's doing a damn good job. But I do have another hero that I will be referring to today. And if you wouldn't mind, thank you. You recognize this fellow, Winston Churchill? And look what he said. This is from the middle of the war when the chips were down. No one knew which way it was going to go. Deserve victory. That is the slogan for you. You deserve victory. And you will be a central part of what happens. You see, it's been happening so slowly, we've not realized what's been going on. The stealth attack on society. We are being eaten alive by people we are paying to do it. And it's happening so slowly that everyone is accommodating to the process. If I had to put one finger on the principal reason we're in this bloody mess, that's number 2. I point the finger directly at universities. Universities are now, they are dominated by junior faculty. Senior faculty runs in fear of them. They're pretty well all socialists or closet communists. But here's the point. They teach the teachers. And the teachers teach our kids. And the kids go to university and colleges and get a second dose. Oh, it must be right. And if you contest it, your marks might drop. Because it's governed by wokeism. That's created what I call, knowledgeably, as a pathologist, a stinking moral rot. A pathologist can smell that a mile away. That's what we have to contend with. But despite the scale of it that I'll come to, nothing is being done about it. I'm going to, basically, my talk today is about the traditional principle of the carrot and the stick. We're going to talk about the stick now, the things that have happened that need never to happen again unless we stop the train. The 3 biggest hoaxes that society has ever lived through, and they're all happening simultaneously. I'm talking here about COVID and its aftermath. It ain't over, and I'll come to that. Climate change and funny money. Those are the 3 hoaxes that are going on simultaneously. And I draw a big conclusion from all of this, and that is that the Achilles heel of democracy is freedom itself. Freedom that is abused by people in ways that were never intended. And if you don't believe me, just look around, both at a personal level and from a societal perspective. Society, extreme government control that's getting worse by the day. The illegal Emergencies Act, putting people in trepidation. I was there with the truckers when that happened. Seized bank accounts, digital ID, digital currency. In China today, there is no such thing as paper money. It's all electronic. And it's coming here. And that's another form of control. 15-minute cities happening in Oxford, England, as we speak, and being actively planned for Edmonton coming shortly to a neighborhood near you. And then we have uncontrolled immigration. People that come here should be needed, not imported simply to conform to some philosophical, political ideal of Carney. And with that comes lawfare. Again, using freedom against us, using the law against us to further their ends. At the end of it all, and examples of that, Birmingham, England, Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Sharia law, places where the police just don't go, places in France as well. Net result, a destruction of a culture. You have to be of a certain age to appreciate a culture, and I get it. Our fathers didn't die for what I just described. They would be aghast at what we've tolerated for so long. They actually died for that. They didn't just complain. They put their lives on the line. Look at the personal aspects of decay. Hedonistic behavior. You just have to look around. What does this look like? A selfie. A selfie defines current society. It's all about me. Life revolves 2 inches around my feet and society be damned. Can I go home for my joint and Netflix now? That's what it's all about for most people. Are they in for an awakening? Public debauchery, reminiscent of the days before the fall of Rome, Berlin before the Second World War. Public debauchery is the final stage of societal decay. Example, transvestites telling stories in children's libraries. Oh, but that's okay. We've got to be tolerant. It's what I call the tyranny of the minorities. Minorities are welcome. Full disclosure, my business partner is Sri Lankan. There isn't a shred of racism in my body. But we can't let them change our culture. We are what we are. Don't try and change it. As a reaction to all of that, we've accommodated good Canadian citizens. Little by little, we've given up a little bit of freedom here, a little bit of freedom there, all dressed up as convenience. And we're government. We're here to support you. Yes, really. So I could say, as an immigrant physician, quite confidently, that I have diagnosed a unique medical disorder that only exists in Canada, and it's called the terminal niceness syndrome. We're ripe for the picking. And so that's how it evolved. Underpinning all of this, of course, are the 2 isms that we're all too familiar with, wokeism and globalism. So let's get down to one of the first hoaxes, COVID. COVID. It wasn't doctors, it wasn't politicians, it wasn't religious leaders. It was truckers who put their standard in the ground and said, no. That was the start of it. Real men and women. I was there with them at Atchison on the tarmac when they headed off, and then in Ottawa. We have so much to be thankful for what they did, because it started an international movement towards freedom that initially morphed into the Netherlands and then elsewhere. But COVID itself, let me go on record. I am not an anti-vaxxer, not at all. I took them all before COVID, but never again. for all kinds of reasons that I can mention. But I do not believe that what we experienced was an intentional genocide, for all kinds of reasons that I can go into privately later if you want to ask me. No, I do believe it was an unintentional release from a lab that had terrible biosafety. It was built by the French. They knew all about it. But you would expect, demand, that a Department of Defense, particularly in the States, would have the manual on the shelf ready to go should there ever be a real bioterrorism attack. So it was released, and the DOD said, now, let's do it. Let's trial run, just in case the real one happens. And that's, unfortunately, the way it played out. It was a DOD campaign, nothing to do with the politicians. It was purely military. Fauci was the front-end stooge. Always beware of a Lilliputian with all the money and all the power and no success in life. Those are very dangerous people. But it wasn't him. It was the scarf lady behind him, Colonel Deborah Birx, ex-Army. She orchestrated the whole damn thing. Number 3. As a result, you can argue about the numbers. The rough estimate that seems to be becoming agreed is that 36 million people died after being injected with this poison. I'm talking million here. Let's say I'm off by 100%. It's still way, way more than the number of people that die after the introduction of a drug that's then withdrawn from the market. 36 million people? Translate that for Alberta. 4,000 to 8,000 people. Many of you might well have known someone who did have a horrible consequence from these injections. Those are not zeros, ladies and gentlemen. Each one of those people was as close to someone as you are to your children. I'd like to call them martyrs. They died to reveal the rot that we were previously unaware of. What happened is the declaration of the enemy. You cannot fight an invisible enemy. The enemy was winning, hands down. The institutional corruption involved every single aspect of society, organized society. Medicine, academia, politics, the courts, the mainstream media, except alternative media. Thank you, Jason. And religious leaders. None of them stood up for you, particularly the religious leaders. They deserted their flock, except for the non-denominational churches, of which there was merely a handful. Artur Pawlowski and people like that. So to close on the COVID hoax side of things, let me just briefly review 3 things that I think are very, very important. The Henry Ford Foundation in Detroit, an esteemed institution, blue chip, instituted a study about 10 years ago to show, they hoped, that vaccinated children, before COVID, with the US vaccination schedule, which is now thankfully radically changed, to show that vaccinated children were healthier than unvaccinated children. What they found was exactly the opposite. 57% of vaccinated children had a chronic disease of some sort, whereas unvaccinated children had only 17% of them had a chronic illness. That report being so opposite to what was expected, was buried. And it only came to light very recently when Aaron Suri, a famous US attorney, brought it to light with congressional testimony. What a fantastic business model it is to make you sick with one shot and then sell you drugs to mitigate, not to cure, those chronic diseases lifelong. What a brilliant strategy that is, double dipping to make even more money. Second important paper, very important, authored by McCullough and Nick Hulscher, good friends of mine, about the determinants of autism, showing from the most massive review of all the literature that the biggest determinant of autism, which as you know is taking off logarithmically, the biggest determinant of autism is the childhood vaccination schedule. That was reinforced 2 weeks later when the CDC recognized it had to change its website that used to say, vaccines do not cause autism. That statement was taken down and replaced by something that's much more mealy-mouthed. The last thing I want to tell you about medically with regard to COVID is what's coming down the pipe. Be prepared for this. You think everything else is bad enough? Nowhere close. Dr. David Speaker, another good friend of mine, a molecular biologist in Guelph, is about to show, and we hope he fails, that reverse transcription in a living person, reverse transcription of the mRNA in the vax into permanent installation of DNA in your nucleus, he is intending to determine if that happens, using spermatozoa semen as the study model. If he shows that, and if the second experiment is positive, and that will be to look at the DNA of an unvaxxed baby of two vaxxed parents. Translation: transgenerational change in humanity, forever and ever and ever, amen. For no reason other than a bad seasonal flu, and this has been injected into 70% of the world's population. You think that's bad enough? We don't, if it's shown to be the case, and let's hope he fails. If that's not bad enough, we don't know what that's going to do. What we do know is, if you monkey around with perfection, which is human DNA, the outcome is not going to be positive. And it could accelerate mortality and drop fertility and result in what I would call 10, 20 years from now, the big kill. The genocide that was being talked about was not the intentional release. It's what could happen 10, 20 years from now. Hoax number 2, climate change. I call the things that are going on solutions in search of a problem. It's really as simple as that, because the cause is in plain sight. You just have to use your eyes and look out of the window. During the day, what do you see? Clouds and the sun. And at night, what do you see? The stars. Let me translate. The sun sends an erratic solar storm, a magnetic storm towards the earth all the time, totally unpredictable. And supernovae that have exploded billions of years ago are constantly showering the earth with cosmic rays. And in the stratosphere, the interaction of the solar wind from the sun and the cosmic rays create atomic nuclei upon which condensation occurs with water vapor to create what we call clouds. More clouds, colder. Fewer clouds, warmer. It's really as simple as that. And at night, of course, as I said, you see the stars. And that's where the cosmic rays come from. The big point is that these are two independent variables. So guess what? Climate changes. Can you predict the clouds from one day to the next? Or maybe 1 month to the next? No, you can't. There's so many ways of influencing the global climate. And remember, carbon dioxide is not that we produce, is not the problem. If it is a problem contributing, it's a very small proportion. Carbon dioxide is plant food. Without it, we die. So rather than Trump's famous adage of drill, baby, drill, in my opinion, it should be burn, baby, burn. Make more of it. It's good stuff. It's causing an increased yield in Indian crop production. It's causing the greening around the perimeter of the Sahara Desert. It's altogether good stuff, like Patrick Moore, the founder, one of the founders of Greenpeace, famously said, carbon dioxide is not a poison, it's our savior. And if we try to get rid of it, we go too. And one final example of the consequences of climate change from the UK. Given the increasingly poor economy and fewer money in the genes of old age pensioners, and a tripling of heating costs, they are forced to decide, which do you want, heat or eat? Is that what this man stood up for and our fathers died for? In a developed democracy, to treat our seniors that way? I don't think so. And then finally, as I said, 15-minute sitters. So let's move on to hoax number 3, magic money, the biggest of them all. We have uncontrolled spending while we're bankrupt. And that's been going on for decades. How many people in this room are aware that the average family spend 2 days of every week working for government for their entire life to be squandered? No, government is what's called a Ponzi scheme. It's what Bernie Madoff went to jail for. A Ponzi scheme, simply put, is when you borrow money to pay the interest on the money you borrowed. That's obviously unsustainable, and it was summarized famously by an American economist called Howard Stein, who said, quote, "If something can't go on forever, it will stop." And it will stop on a Friday afternoon when the banks close, and you'll be the last to know about it. So having gone through what you might call the stick, because this is happening or is going to happen, that train to dystopia that we definitely don't want our children to have to experience. Exactly what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue whining or act? I've been around this block for 5 years now, and I'm fed up with whining. It's got us nowhere. And it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The only solution is obviously an independent Republic of Alberta, and I'm passionate about it. Okay, for a couple more minutes? He's the boss. I'm not sure if any of you follow a good friend of mine. He's got a worse mouth than me, Paul Alexander in the States. Do any of you follow Paul Alexander? Right on. He was in Ottawa too. he said famously and euphemistically, full disclosure, I'm not advocating violence of any kind, okay? Passive resistance, yes, but no violence, please. He said, quote, "We got to burn the institutions down to the studs. That is the only solution, radical change in order to get where we want to." Because when we succeed, Alberta, yes, will be prosperous and free. But that's not really the big prize. The big prize is that Alberta could redefine democratic ideals for the rest of the world because we're small enough to change direction. And that to me is totally intoxicating, to think that what started there at Atchison could create that incredible history for this land that we will start calling the country of Alberta. So, yes, we'll win the petition. I'm obviously talking to the choir here. But how do we win the referendum, which is everyone else? That's a very different matter. In my opinion, the enemy is not Danielle Smith or Carney or even the Supreme Court, because the whole essence of the independent country of Alberta and its prosperity is otherwise known as oil. If big oil thinks we can't pull it off, they will undermine the activity in stealthy ways, dark money, to make damn sure it doesn't happen, because they'll work with a dictator anywhere. They want certainty, not maybe. So it's up to us to have a resounding victory in the referendum so that big oil comes on side. And when big oil's on side, they'll be on our side when whoever is in charge is negotiating with Ottawa. A final point about the distinction between polling and voting. You've seen the numbers, 30% in favor of separation, whatever that number is, it varies a bit. Don't be deceived. Don't be dismayed. Because a poll is a result of a phone call or response to something on the internet in the comfort of your chair. Quite different from getting in a car, angry than hell, and going to a voting booth. And I put it to you that anger will drive success in this campaign, whereas those voting for no will be comfortable at home, not really wanting to get out, quite happy with the kumbaya of status quo. They will not be angry. They may be upset, but they won't be angry. There's one thing that I'd like to focus on when it comes to the essence of the pitch. In my opinion, it's not prosperity, it's not freedom. It's prosperity. The average person, in my opinion, having been around this block for 5 years, the average person, not you lot, the average person really doesn't give a damn about freedom. They'll trade it off for a trinket. Convenience. That's what they've done for years. It's all about the money. It's always been about the money, and it's now about the money. But you've got to translate prosperity away, you've got to translate it, not a generic term that sounds fine and dandy, but you've got to personalize it. You've got to target a demographic that's going to respond to the need for them to have more money in their jeans. And I put it to you that one demographic that's been notoriously ignored over the years by politicians is the working mother. The working mother who, cast your mind back, before the Second World War, most women didn't work. Most women were the esteemed pillar of society. They didn't just make the babies, they nurtured the babies. They were there when the kids came home from school. They taught ethics and morals and took them to church. Not that we didn't do anything. But in years gone by, we drove chariots and defended the village. We don't do that anymore. Our job is simply to put this on the table. Women do the rest. And they're nowhere near recognized for what they do. So in the future, in this referendum campaign, I would like the pitch be to single mothers and working mothers working for minimum wage because their partner is earning enough to get by without them working. And the pitch to them would be, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to work at the cashier desk at Walmart? Wouldn't you prefer to be the esteemed pillar of the family and respected for that? I think that's a winning formula for the referendum. And there's one negative about the voting and the pitch. I don't think we should have religion despite being a religious person. I don't believe we should have religion and abortion, sadly, on the table. Because every vote matters, and if we turn off people who don't like the idea of religion being part of society and have strong views on abortion, if we insist on that, we will turn enough people off to lose. Every single vote is going to be critical. So I'm going to finish, Jason. He's my boss. I'm going to finish by saying these things. Tinkering will not work. If I could use a medical metaphor here, we have to burst the pustule and make sure it doesn't hit you in the eye. We've got to be radical and non-violent in order to get what we want. No more messing around. That train to dystopia is real. And it may not be affecting us immediately, but it'll certainly affect our kids. So I refer back to the carrot and stick. We talked about the stick. That's definite. It's coming, and it's huge, unless we stop it. Compare that risk in the risk-benefit analysis with the future prosperity and freedom of the independent country called Alberta. I put the risk down here. Yes, there is risk, obviously. The risk is manageable, including CPP. The risk is manageable. The risk we're not sure about, but it's nowhere close to that risk. Don't get lost in the weeds in this whole argument with arcane constitutional issues and so on and so on. It's about that versus that. It's a very, very simple equation which you're going to be asked to vote on. And to succeed, I would draw a religious analogy. Jesus did not spread Christianity. It was his disciples that did it. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the disciples that's going to win this referendum by leaving here angrier than you came in, with information that you can repeat with sound bites to people that are on the fence, and stay angry until we've won this very, very important battle. Corning Trump, we've got to fight, 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 because losing is not an option. We're in this to win. Thank you.
Definitely stick around. We're going to do the Q&A. He's got 2 swears left. He's allowed to have 5. He had 3. So we're in good shape right now. What would you think of that? We're going to pass around the donation bucket. I am not funded by the government. I'm not part of the APP. I'm not part of the State Free Alberta. This is for the Lavigne show, so we can continue to do these things, rent halls, have Max, and make sure we can take it around Alberta. So if you don't mind, you can throw a couple bucks in there. Did anybody learn something today? raise your hand if you learned something tonight. Or clap. Yeah, that works. Now, do you have any more questions? Okay, that's what we're about to do now, get into the Q&A. I hope you have some good ones. It always starts off slow, and then it doesn't stop. It takes a couple times to get people going, but let's get Kathy, and let's get Robert, or Dr. Roger Hodkinson to come on back. Excellent. Right, I'm coming.
No, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, Jason, for hosting the show, and just I really respect what y'all are trying to accomplish. Gives me hope, because I pretty well checked out with Canada, quote unquote, since COVID, all that stuff. So it's nice to see like a group of people that are willing to put their skin in the fight and at least take a stand on social media and in person as well. But my question more so is about a constitution, and for a free Alberta. Like, I look at it that there's multiple different avenues. Some people are calling for the 51st state. There's others that want to see like Alberta pretty well sovereign, but within a united Canada, which I think is Danielle Smith's position. There's others that want to see the West just independent and we create our own constitution. And I'm actually just wondering, my question is anyone actually working on what that constitution would be? I have a lot of different ideas in terms of what that should be, but at least points where you can get the unity. It's sort of like when the U.S. formed their constitution, and we're going to disagree on a lot of different things, right? But having main points like Dr. Hodkinson pointed out, like that we can come together, at least unify in that sense and not divide the movement. So
Absolutely, we get that one every time, and I'll give the answer that we come up with a lot. First of all, you're part of that right now. Getting together, having conversations, and raising questions just like you did. That is part of how you get to a new constitution. Technically speaking, you need a constitutional convention, which will come after a yes vote. Now, what you've laid out there is there's a bunch of different ideas. And I will put a disclaimer out there. We're not here to tell you how it's going to work. We're going to share ideas with you. We're not the ones that are going to make it work. You are, actually. But we're going to share with you the knowledge that we've collected. So some people say Commonwealth outside of the monarchy is a good idea. Some people say that. Some people say just take the U.S. Constitution, change it to Canada Constitution, let's run with it. Some people say take the U.S. Constitution, add the Swiss model to it. Some people say let's start all over again and flip the default. Instead of an all-powerful government, let's have a no-powerful government. Instead of having rights, let's give them their privileges. So there's a lot of different schools of thoughts on this one right now, and that's what the Constitutional Convention will be for. Mitch Sylvester was on my show just about a week ago, and he said after a yes vote, we could be within 60 days of a Constitutional Convention. We'll put that into December or January 2027. So people like you need to keep asking these questions. Groups like this need to come together and go ahead and start thinking about this. But yes, I think what we need to do is have that Constitutional Convention to do it, and there's a bunch of different ways to get there. Personally, I'd like to see us be very radical and just completely burn it down to the studs and start again. Want to add anything to that?
So just remember that no matter what we decide on that constitutional convention, these votes get us there. So if you want to see a sovereign Alberta and united Canada, which won't work, but if you want to try, you still have to vote yes. If you want to see a 51st state, you still have to vote yes. If you want to see Western independence, all of the provinces come together, you still have to vote yes. So all of that, nothing changes in that process. Just remember that.
And to touch on the 51st state one right away, this is not a vote for the 51st state, no matter what the media tells you. In order to join the United States under their laws and their constitution, you already have to be a sovereign nation. So you have to do step one. Step two, under the U.S. side of things, you have to then have your own referendum about joining as the 51st state. That would have to pass. I don't think that would pass in a sovereign Alberta. But if you wanted to have that question, you still have to be sovereign first. And then there's a bunch of things on the US side that makes it very unlikely that it will happen. First, they're not interested in that. 3 delegations been down there already. They want to see an independent Alberta, not another state. You need 2/3 of the Congress, 2/3 of the Senate to approve it. And we'll be a red state, wouldn't we? So the Democrats would not like that. They spent a lot of time changing the voting down there. Last thing they need is 5 million more people coming in that likely will not vote with California. So there's going to be a lot of things going on there. But some of the major hurdles are, you have to be sovereign. Then you have to have a referendum. So don't put the cart before the horse here. Sovereignty is the first step.
Well, thanks for answering that. That actually
Yeah, contrary to what was being told to the elderly during Thomas Usakic's petition when he went into the long-term care facilities and told them, sign this or you're going to be joining Trump. He lied to them. That's not how it works. Do you have another question? Oh, yes, right on. See, it always gets going.
Yeah.
I'm getting my steps in again. Kevin's here. Good to see you. He ran against me in the election. He's a good guy.
Hello, my name is Darcy. I would, has anybody talked about the mineral rights? What's going to happen in Alberta? When, like the farmers, are they going to be able to have the oil under their land and stuff like that? I've never heard anybody talk about that.
That's one of those unknowns that right now we don't have an answer for that question. But it's going to be on that table where we're going to have to talk about it. And because with that, there's going to be it could be a bunch of changes, right? Like even how the oil companies, if we turn it to where the property rights also includes any of the minerals that are within the soil, well then all of the companies that are doing business here, it changes up how they do business, right? It also will change up how we collect taxes considerably, like significantly. So we're going to have to sit down with the smart people who know how to crunch these numbers and know how to figure this out and ask them to put some possibilities in front of us so then we've got something to vote on and make sure that we make those decisions very intelligently because it could really upset the apple cart quite a bit depending which way we decide we want to go.
Okay, good. Here you go. Chris Barber's little brother right here.
I'm not Chris. No. I appreciate what you guys are all doing. I might have missed a little bit, but the Constitution that we're going to create, that is critically important. And if you look at like the Declaration of Independence, I recommend everybody read it because it has a lot of similarities to what our situation is in Alberta. But the initial statements are so powerful. And even in Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Charter of Privileges, however you want to describe it, the preamble says a lot. It's very short, but it says a lot. And Canada's founding in the year of our Lord, 1867, that's not nothing. That means a lot. It says a lot. It's a measurement of time. And even on the Alberta flag, top of it is St. George's Cross. I had to look that up because I heard some people saying, you know what, we got to do away with that. But I looked it up, and this guy, he's not British. He existed before the Declaration of Independence. He existed before Islam. He existed before the Roman Catholic Church. He was martyred, St. George was martyred in the year 303 AD because he refused to bow to Roman paganism at that time. And I think that's something symbolic for Alberta, like there's symbols on our flag that tell you a lot about our personality. And I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add, but that's something I think a lot of people might not even be aware of. But it's just standing up for what's right.
Thank you for sharing that. I actually didn't know that detail. Appreciate that a lot. You're not just a handsome man, you're very knowledgeable too. All right, so those kind of questions, I think people like you need to be at the Constitutional Convention to keep reminding us.
One more quick thing. If anybody who's on the fence, I think there's two simple observations that I'm making. Ottawa is going left and communist, the way I see it. Alberta has a chance to stay strong and free and set up guardrails and a new constitution to prevent that thing. So it's either communism or freedom, our choice.
And I would suggest we also become a template for many other places, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC, Quebec, other places.
Jason, could I address
Please
the
do.
flag issue? I know a little bit about that flag coming from over there. I know a little bit about that flag coming from over there. You're absolutely correct in terms of the origins of that name, but it's emblematic of royalty. It's emblematic of something we want to desperately get rid of. And if you want to know what it's like living under a monarchy, spend some time in Britain. I've lived there. It stinks of privilege, class, things that we don't want to see any of here. We need to get rid of anything and everything that connects us to monarchy. It's one of the reasons I left Britain. I wasn't attracted to Canada, I was kicked out of Britain.
So my question is for Dr. Hodkinson, since he's here. You said something about 36 million people or so dying from COVID, but what I wanted to say is that before the vaccines came, I think they came in to Alberta, I think it was in June 2021, or maybe in March they started with the elderly, but before that, all of 2020 and the first half of 2021, people were dying worldwide. They were dying like flies, without the vaccines. So, but it was the hospital treatments, in my view, and I think that that's something that maybe we need to mention as well, that it wasn't just the vaccine that killed so many people, but the hospital treatments too. If you stayed home and didn't go to the hospital, you survived. You went to the hospital, and after a couple of days, whether it was a ventilator or morphine or a mask they put in, oxygen mask, terminated you.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many reasons why people died during COVID, but very few actually died of COVID itself. Many of them died of the medical interventions that were totally inappropriate or denied them. Antibiotics, ivermectin, nattokinase, etc., etc. That's why a lot of people that did die died. But many more people have died because of the, in my opinion, the very inappropriate use of an experimental product, otherwise known as gene therapy, that normally requires 10 years of experience before it's ever used on a mass scale. And the results have been nothing short of catastrophic. The most terrible tragedy in medical history has happened on our watch. And I am ashamed of the doctor title now, because if, as a profession, we'd stood up and said just what the truckers said, no, all those people would still be alive today. But no. It was this that drove medicine. Fear of reprisal, which is real. Loss of income, family, mortgage, etc.
Hi. I'm curious about the military, what Alberta have planned for that. Because I'm Chinese, and my family came from China. We immigrated here over 50 years ago in a legal way, invested and all that stuff, and worked really hard. And I'm proud to be a Canadian. But I'm watching, thank you, but I'm watching Canada going down the road, and I'm telling you, it is coming, communist. China is coming in more and more, and my family watching the government in China. They're sending money, they're sending people, laundering money into Canada, because I'll tell you one thing they do know. We don't have a military base in Canada. We might last 2 days, what we have. They know that. Once they're in, I'm not kidding you, they might just one day say, we're just gonna take over Canada, what are you gonna do? There is nothing except for US maybe able to help us, but we need to separate away from that. And that's my concern, because we moved here, loving Canada, you know what I mean, the white picket fence, working hard, just peace and family, and I'm seeing that going away.
Jason, another sound bite for people to leave with. I think you can remember this one. A, B, C, and I'll come to D in a minute. A, B, C, anywhere but China. Sorry, anywhere but China. You don't feed the enemy. You used to put a siege around the castle and starve them to death. That's how we used to win. You don't feed your enemy. And D, of course, that's societal. D is for you. A, B, C, D. Vitamin D. Recommended dose to boost your immune system, 5,000 IU a day. Safe, very effective, and should have been used right from the get-go at the start of this epidemic, because what used to be called the season of coughs and colds is better now defined as the season of vitamin D deficiency, particularly for old people in nursing homes who never see the light of day anyway, to get their own vitamin D production. So remember, easy, A, B, C, D. Spread the word.
And we'll add a couple more pieces to that for you. First of all, the military bases that are in Alberta would still be owned by Alberta, so you staff it up. A great deal with the U.S. can be security and energy security, so national security and energy security. They would like to have a base in northern Alberta. So just like they offered to the Ukraine, once we're there, you have protection. They're also trying to take away our guns right now. Why do you think they're doing that? A well-armed militia can take on a tyrannical government. It doesn't have to be your government. It could be a government. And last, already the Alberta Police Force is something that's being worked on by Danielle Smith. We're going to be working on that right away. And a lot of people will come here to protect us because they want to be part of this as well. So before China and Russia can get through Northwest Territories, BC, all the way through Saskatchewan, which that in itself might be a fight with that military, a little one, 2 days, like you said. But we also have the Southern Partnership, and they would want to protect their energy supply as well.
I'd say the biggest reason to keep your guns is because that train to dystopia will result in anarchy. And if the police are not going to be around because they're all dead from a vaccine or scared or whatever, and it's so endemic, the threat for people that live remotely, you better have your guns. Not to fend off an invasion, but to fend off marauding people who are just hungry. That's how bad it could get.
Hi, my name's Tom. I have to make a comment to this, the lady over here about communism. Oh, I think communism's already here. And digital currency, people are worried about their money being taken away. In 1979, I got a notice from the bank, TD Bank, that somebody took $500 out of our account. So I went and checked it out, and they said it's a third-party demand from the government. I said, for what? I said, they want the money, we give it to them. I got it back a year later, because it was just an error. But, and then we had our account froze another time. They don't say anything, they just freeze it. And to the doctor, I'd like to know, do you know anything about vaccine shedding?
Yep, it's real. There's not just evidence for it. Pfizer knew that it could happen in their trial. They dressed it up in fancy words. They called it environmental exposure. All the people monitoring the individuals who've been vaccinated, so-called, were told to be on the lookout for unexpected consequences in people that were nearby the person who'd been vaccinated. Pfizer knew that was a risk, and it's only subsequently shown, of course, to be true, and as many women found, immediate disturbances with their menstrual cycle. It's easy to dismiss women in medicine as nutcases, psychologically disturbed, you know. It happens all the time, imagined. But you can't argue with blood clots, all right? Women were bleeding in a very different way. And to answer your question, yes, it's real. And it could get even worse because of the new generation of mRNA vaccines, which are called self-replicating. The mRNA that's in the current vaccination that's meant to make every cell in your body produce spike protein, that does degrade. There's some resistance to it relative to normal mRNA, but it does degrade. what self-replicating mRNA vaccines are all about is to have the mRNA itself reproduce itself so that it's not degraded and continues producing the product which your immune system reacts to. So let's hope that the general reaction of the population to reject these so-called vaccines continues, because it's going to lead to nothing but catastrophe.
Max, there we go. Yeah, hold on.
Hi, my name's Peter. I just had a couple comments, if I could make a couple comments. I am mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore because, like, we lost 7 family members in that COVID bullshit thing. And so I made a pledge that day, or along that day, that I was going to fight this to the end, and I'm still fighting it. And, you know, I was on holidays. I just come back. I didn't know about this meeting, but I met a couple of young farm boys from Ontario. They're in the mid-30s, 35s. And they asked me, what's going on in Alberta and with this thing going on? And I said, well, I'm not sure. Haven't been there for a while. But they said, you guys keep it up. He says, you guys win. This is 2 farm boys from Ontario telling me, you guys win. They want us to win out in Ontario. This has amazed me. And then I said, you know, I've been called lots of names over the years. I've been at this. I've been on the road several times, and we've been called lots of names and stuff. But I say, really? I don't think I'm that way. You mentioned it too earlier, what that was. But anyways, enough of my comments. The question always says, in my mind, is my grandparents on both sides of my family came here prior to 1905. They come here to build Alberta. What the hell happened? How did they take it from them? How did they take it from us? That is my question to you guys. How did they take Alberta from us? The pioneers, the settlers. That fella reminded me, we're not immigrants here, we're settlers. And I says, I guess you're right, we're settlers. We settled this country. We're not immigrants, we're settlers. And I says, can I use that? And he says, you can. I says, okay, I'm a settler. Why did we get pushed out? How did they, what? I mean, I knew they went and hung Louis Rel and stuff for treason. Now, how did they get Alberta? That's my question.
We let them. We let them. We stayed home and we didn't go vote. When the independence movement climbed in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it fizzled out. And so because of a lack of work on our part, we're now where we are today. That's that. Our voting record is absolutely abysmal to show up when there's elections. Now, federally, whatever. I mean, I told you, I explained it to you that your vote doesn't count. I spoil my ballot. I will take the time to go and spoil my ballot at the federal election. But even provincially, we're terrible at showing up at the polls. Municipally, we're absolutely terrible at showing up at the polls. And so we let them. Whenever something was happening and they were passing a bill or passing another law, we didn't say anything. We just let them. And that's why this time we cannot have any excuses. None. None. No excuse. If you are ready to sign that petition and you feel good about it, you sign it. You sign it. That's our first shot across the bow. Like I said, to say that we want to have our say. Now, I have no problem thinking we're going to get all those signatures. We're going to get the signatures we need. But we need to get as many as possible. The second thing, and I cannot stress this enough, when we have our referendum in the fall, our premier has promised it to us, so we will have it. If you have never voted in your life, that is a beautiful day to make a change. Beautiful day. I don't care who's playing hockey. I don't care if your kid is playing hockey. I don't care if your grandkid is playing hockey. You're going to go and you're going to vote on that referendum. Whether it's yes or no, you need to go have your say. Because as we're hearing tonight, this is our only chance to vote our way out. And I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. And we do have enough people who moved here from countries who have seen what's coming, and they're telling us. So you go and you vote. And if your neighbor did not go vote, you pick them up and you say, you are coming with me and you're going to go vote. And then you go for coffee, beer, whatever. I don't care. Go do something. Celebrate it. Take the family. This is a historical moment, guys. This is the birth of our nation coming up. You make it a family event when you go on to vote for that referendum. It has to be. It has to be. This matters. It's for all the marbles.
To add a bit more to that, you asked the how. The system's designed that way. The East has the power. We think we have representation. We don't. No. So no matter what we try and do, we can't stop them. They've made it seem nice enough, and we've been passive enough that we stayed with the system. But now hopefully enough of you are waking up to understand the system's broken, it's stacked against us, and there is no way to fix it. We have to leave. The Senate, the judges, they appointed. Did you just see the recent announcement of the Justice Minister of Canada when Alberta asked for some input for the judges? He laughed. He said no. Correct. Alberta didn't vote. Alberta didn't even vote to become part of this. It was just taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My name is Sabrina, and I have a question for all of you. I'm very proud and happy to see how the movement is advancing. It's a grassroots movement. It's power to the people. But my question is just beyond voting, beyond signing, beyond voting, how can we protect the movement from being hijacked by special interests, by people with power, by the powers that be? Because we are all just people, and right now it's beautiful, and we're standing for the same thing. But there are powers out there. You mentioned big oil siding with us, possibly, hopefully, but there are other powers. We've seen historically around the world that movements that start this way by the people are often hijacked. So currently there's a little bit of ambiguity as to who are the leaders of the movement, what happens after the vote, what happens. I know that this is the first step. We need to first get the yes, obviously. But once we do, how do we protect it? What can we do? And who will protect the movement as a whole through that transition?
So let me just correct a couple things you said there. Because you're not just the people. No, not even that. Every single successful revolution started just like this, in rooms just like this, and with concerns just like yours. Going forward, we don't need a leader. There's a lot of leaders. There's a lot of people that are stepping forward, stepping away from their family for weeks at a time, stepping away from his wife for days at a time, husband for days at a time, just to come and tell you, you're not just the people. You are the people, and this is how we're going to get it done. When we get into the Constitutional Convention, people just like you need to stand up, just like everybody else in this room needs to stand up. And this is how the American Revolution was done. They stood up. And the more of us that stands up, the better. And when it comes to the corruption, what they're going to do is try and do what's called FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They're going to put that into you because they can't control your power. They try and get you to fight within each other, lose your confidence, and become cowards. That's how they stop you because they know you're not just the people. You are the people.
Also, in terms of sometimes people will side with you, well, not people, the special interest that I'm thinking about will side with you, but have ulterior motives underneath that would only be seen after we get to success.
Well, that's uncertainty and doubt that you're talking about right there. So have the confidence that we will see that this time around. And the new Constitution, one of the things that people are saying is assume corruption. So you built into it checks and balances, audits, penalties, criminal penalties. Bruce Party has a good, So you assume people can be corrupted. and you build that into your constitution. Anybody want to see like monthly or quarterly audits of every department? You want to know where every penny goes? Let's start off that way. Did that work? Yeah.
A little bit to that. So, not in this presentation, but in another one that I give that's somewhat similar, I describe what I saw. I've been in this movement for 6 years. And so over those 6 years, I have seen 3 solid attempts to bring it down. And it's big, right? It's the 3-letter agencies, it's all the people that don't want to see this happen. And what ends up happening is that you'll see whether it's a group or whether it's a political party, there's all this infighting and oh, those conservatives are eating one another again, and we hear all of it, right? Well, that's only half true. What actually happens is the folks that don't want to see this succeed go inside, they come in and they find out who the low-hanging fruit are, and then they say, hey, Roger, I'll promise you this, if you do this and this.
That's okay.
Okay. Right? Shake? Okay. And now his whole reason for getting up in the morning is to pull that down from within. So it's not infighting, it's infiltration. I watched it 3 times. So the reason that this time we did not succumb to that is because those of us who have been in these trenches for a long time have said, you know what, I know that Albertans are screaming for us to all come under one banner. They're screaming for us to have that leader, but we can't because that creates a target. So APP was doing this. Kathy Flett and Angela Tabak were doing that. Corey Morgan was over here. Keith Wilson was over there. So-and-so was over here. So-and-so was over there. And we all talk. We're all friends. We're all pulling the rope in the same direction. And we created one hell of a game of whack-a-mole for those people. They couldn't take us down. And that's why we're here today. So that leader will rise. The leader will rise when the time is right. I have no doubt about that. No doubt.
You stole my thunder.
Sorry.
That man appeared at a time of crisis. As likely as not, as likely as not, the right person will emerge and be the charismatic leader with spine, with Ottawa, who will lead us into the success that we fully expect from the independent country of Alberta. This man set the standard. He risked everything himself. He was riveting at a time of crisis, and it really won the day, and I expect such a person will appear. Don't be dismayed by the apparent disarray at the present time. That's called a vibrant discussion. You'd expect that in the future country of Alberta. A leader will emerge. Worry not.
And I would actually add to that leader likely knows not to pop up yet. So probably smart and wise. So at some point, we may know who it is, and you'll vote. It's not like he's going to be a dictator. You'll have a say in this too.
Hi, I'm wondering how a person can respond to some people that have seen the YouTube video, Canada, The Illusion. It's probably been brought up. I just was talking to some friends a few days ago, and I tried to watch it some time ago, had a hard time following the logic on it. Don't know if it's a red herring, but apparently the premise that the couple that I was talking to was, we already have our sovereignty and we just need 3 international lawyers to go to Westminster to get the paperwork to bring it back to prove it.
Okay, so I had Doug Forrest on my show before he passed on, so we've lost Doug now. So he was on my show to talk about his movie. And the thing I liked about him was he was very optimistic that we need to get out of the monarchy. So that's something we talked about a lot on my show before he passed away. But what I noticed quickly is he doesn't have any legal training. And there's a lot of misunderstanding on the 1931 document. If it was true, it had already been done. Let's just put it that way. If that was the case, it just took Keith Wilson, Jeffrey Rath, and maybe Leighton Gray to go do it, it would be done. That's not true. It's a misinterpretation and a misunderstanding. It's worse than a red herring. It's misinformation. So anybody that brings that up, my comment to them is, let's pretend for a moment that's true. we still have the chance at the Constitutional Convention start all over. So if that was true, and now's our chance to fix it. If we're under a Commonwealth, now's our chance to fix it. If we're under a dictatorship, now's our chance to fix it. So let's not look back to 1931. Let's look at 2027. Getting my steps in. We got two here?
This is for Dr. Roger Hodgkinson. Thank you so much. I met you 4 years ago in Drayton, and it was because of your courage and you talking to me that I left the secular world. And you're amazing for standing and giving so much of us courage when we weren't even given the proper PPE. So it was all bullshit, and you stood. Thank you.
That swear counts as one of yours. So that's 4 now.
Dr. Roger, you talked about the universities, and I want to touch on that, of how they have made a network all over the world of owning our resources, our supply chains, all of those things. What if they cut us off? And then also the population of other cultures, just the sheer way that they live, they're going to outpopulate us at some point. How would we deal with some of those things if that was to happen? And then, one more thing, what about all the people they've brainwashed already? If you think of a Taylor Swift concert and the sheer volume of people there, okay? And then you look at our group, which is very strong, and positive energy is 10,000 times stronger than negative energy. So I know that we hold power here, but I'm worried about the people that would maybe vote no, that are ready to go to war over this from their brainwashing, from their dystopian standards of living already in such a violent way. So are we gonna fight our neighbors? Are we gonna fight the people that we love? Like, even if I don't agree with you, what if they're ready to fight me because I chose this? So all of those things swirl in my mind about this, and I'm not trying to be negative. I like to be empowered. I like to look at the whole big picture.
I want to just add one thing there quickly. You're certainly exposed to some of that brainwashing yourself, because those people don't exist. This is our 5th event this week that 2 people stand up, yell at us, and leave. No, I understand, but they're not going to pick up arms on you. These people, have you seen some of those videos where they say, hey, we're going to fight back? And then, no, that's not going to happen. This is not going to happen here. We outnumber them, but we're not the violent type. They're going to scare you with that, but it's not going to be true. So they're going to attempt to. Yeah, and we've had 2 people, and we've had about 1,000 people total this week. 2 people that screamed at us, then left. They didn't try and fight, they just left. It's not as big as you think. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, it sounds big, but it's not as big as you think.
Don't worry about universities. If they disappear tomorrow, you barely know it. Let me explain. Let me. Yeah, just let me explain. Universities are not there to teach anything. They're a business. Bums in seats, government grants, student fees, etc., to crank out volume that society maybe doesn't need. How many people have BAs and can't find a job? No, we need to focus on what we need. We would fire all the junior faculty and hire them back if they were a sign of some note of allegiance to the objectives of the new country. We will not tolerate being eaten alive anymore. And a final comment of a different type, and that is, this whole movement is building momentum. And if there's one thing that determines an outcome in any political campaign, it's momentum. It's not the number of the day, it's how it's growing. And when it gets to a certain point, it becomes a decision for the undecided to get on board or not. It looks like you're going to win, so maybe I'll join. The momentum is on our side, ladies and gentlemen. You can taste it everywhere in this province. It's growing by the day. The petition will be overwhelmingly successful, but then we have the fight for the referendum. But in that 6 months, that's a long time in politics. All kinds of things could happen, positive and negative. So let's win this war one battle at a time. We're focusing now on the petition, getting that done, and then we'll fight for the referendum.
Okay, so we have time for 2 more questions.
I just, actually, rather than a question, I just wanted to make a statement here. What Kathy started with since 1905, so for the last 120 years, Albertans have not had a vote. And that's the way you have to look at it. This is the one thing in the history of Alberta that you've got the opportunity to be heard. So your vote really matters when it comes down to this referendum. And I'll tell you, get out there and sign that petition, and when the referendum comes up, make sure you vote in favor of it, because that's the only hope for Alberta.
You sound like the interim leader of an independence party.
Hello, I just had a quick question for the good doctor. Just wondering, I recently heard of over 3 million documents that have been locked away for 15 years. Is there a way that that can not happen? No.
So I'll have to correct that quickly. They didn't actually seal them, but what they did do is they said, well, we have a maximum of 15 years to respond, so we're going to do that. So you can't force them any faster than that. So under the Freedom of Information Act, they can go up to 15 years to respond. So that's what they're invoking. I wish it was as easy as sealing and then unsealing with a court order. They literally said there's so many of them, it's going to take us 15 years to respond. So that is proof, first of all, there's vaccine injury. Okay, thanks for that admission. Yeah, but there's a lot of us working hard to get more of that information out for you. I've worked on a movie called The Sean Hartman Story, The Shot. Yeah, you'd be the first one because it launches on Sunday in Barrie. But I'll be doing all over Alberta. I'll bring the screener as well, so you all can see that. Because he's fighting hard, Dan Hartman, against Pfizer and the government of Canada to hold him liable for the death of his son, Sean. And where's that picture? There it is right there. Take a look, folks. That's what we're talking about. But nothing to see here, right? 15 years. You guys want to add anything to close up?
Just really
you
quick.
You have one swear left.
I'm sorry?
You got one swear left.
Damn it. They can't hide forever. This isn't the only jurisdiction that has a documentary trail. The evidence is there in spades. In other jurisdictions, if they attempted to hide it forever, it just shows how guilty they are. The argument that they used was it's too big a volume to analyze. It's obviously that they're guilty as hell. And it goes way beyond that. Given the carnage that's going on, the thousands of people in this country who have died directly due to their diktats, they know they're culpable. They do not want to put the money up to do this formal study to confirm what we're saying. That's probably never going to happen, because that would make them culpable. They'd rather deny, delay, diffuse, deflect, anything but do the number one rule in PR, which is if you screw up, fess up, do it immediately in front of the camera without script, contritely, and guess what? Most people will forgive you, and your star may rise.
As we're going through this process of signing this petition and getting to the referendum and everything that is beyond that, there are going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of really good questions. But the one thing that we need to remember is that when all of this started, even pre-1905, it was Albertans who came together to get things done, right? They didn't know there was gas under the ground. Suddenly, surprise! And we figured it out. But the problem was the gas was underneath the fields. And the farmers were not very happy about these guys coming and digging up their fields to get to the gas that was underneath, right? Probably some bloody noses on those fields. But we figured it out. And then we found out that there was oil. Surprise! All kinds of it, Now, what do we do? How do we get it out? How do we get it separated out of the sand? How do we get it out from deep in the ground? And we figured it out. And then there were other things. Lithium now. We figured it out. Oh, we've got these beautiful mountains. People keep coming to want to see them. Why don't we open up some really fancy, pretty hotels and charge them a ton of cash so that they come and spend their money here, right? Manufacturing. The refinery that's in Redwater, if they would have just used the stuff that Leduc makes, they wouldn't have had to rebuild it 3 times, but instead they cheaped out. We have it here. We can, if we did all of that, you think we can't do this? We're going to figure it out. This is not my time. We are going to figure it out. Everything is figure-outable. And it is. It's figure-outable. It's my new word. I've been called a lot of things. I haven't been called that one yet. But everything is figure-outable. And we will find the answers as we go. As we continue to have these conversations, ideas are going to rise to the surface, and the best ones are going to come to the top. And it's not just us that's touring. Jason has got some more tours coming. Find out when they are, where you've got family and friends, tell them to go and see. It'll be different speakers, different Albertans with different ideas about how we're going to get things done. But at the end of the day, we will all make it happen together.
You're a figure-outer-er. A figure-outable-er. All right there.
The golden rule of business. He who controls the money controls the game. We control the money.
The golden rule of media is he who controls the microphone controls the last word. So, everybody look around. These are your neighbors. These are good people, good friends. These are like minds. Take a look around. But what you all have in common is we're all Albertan. So let's let Ontario hear you right now. I am Albertan. I am Albertan. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good night. God bless.